This filly suffered a gruesome breakdown on a sloppy track. Witnesses described the breaking of her cannon bone as sounding like a rifle shot.
Hidden camera vision given to 7:30 shows frightened racehorses being beaten, shocked, and then slaughtered at the Merrimist abattoir at Caboolture in Queensland.
It would be if you weren't working so hard to ruin my race day with that glorified donkey of yours.
The racing dream is a lucrative one, with a great deal of the sport's income provided by gambling.
Every horse that turns up here does turn up with physical problems from racing, so they may have back pain or pelvic pain and various conditions that need veterinary intervention and physio, and some of them need surgery.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me here, Lavender here, and today I'm back with another anti-capitalism true crime deep dive video. Today I'm going to be doing the pure evil, the horse racing industry files, deep dive into that, capitalism, commodities, true crime, etc., animal abuse, animal rights. My other YouTube videos related to this topic will be linked down in the description video of this down below, also on the screen right now for more. So if you're interested, check the videos out in the description down below. So let's get started into the topic at hand. So yeah, horse racing in America has long to go to the Derby, and many even make a lucrative sport out of betting on which horse will win. But it's not all fun and games for the horses who are forced against their will to put on a show for human entertainment and profit. Derby Day can be a matter of life and death. Very cruel to the horses. Animal cruelty is the norm. In the modern day, horses in the U.S. are bred in a reckless manner that is meant to make them speedy on the racetrack, but also has the effect of making them particularly susceptible to injuries. For instance, today's horses are bred to have the skinniest ankles possible so they can run faster, which often results in innocent animals breaking their legs and ankles. What's worse, when injuries occur, owners typically have the horses euthanized as if they're disposable commodity objects rather than, paying to have their injuries properly treated. According to a group that opposes racehorsing as inhumane, 901 thoroughbreds died in 2022, more than 2 a day. 7 horses died over 10 days leading up to the Kentucky Derby in May this year, 2023. But that statistic doesn't convey the scope of the problem. Over the past 5 years, according to documents obtained by my organization, Horse Racing Wongs, Churchill Downs has been the site of 126 deaths for an average of 25 deaths per year. At Baltmont Park in Elmont, New York, things are even worse. Records have been attained that show that since 2009, 612 horses have died there. That's almost 45 per year. These are the crown jewels of U.S. horse racing, so you can imagine what's happening at the cheaper, bottom-of-the-barrel, bottom-rung tracks. Research, however, indicates that the annual death toll is more likely more than 2,000. That's about 6 horses killed by the horse racing industry every day. To be clear, death at the track is neither clean nor tranquil. Death at the track can come from cardiovascular collapse, heart problems, a failed heart, from animals that are mostly still in adolescence, meaning that they're not fully grown or fully developed. Death at the track can be caused by pulmonary hemorrhages, bleeding from the lungs, blunt force trauma from collisions with other horses, or the track itself. Dead racehorses can have broken necks, severed spines, ruptured ligaments, and shattered legs. Sometimes skin is the only thing keeping the limb attached to the rest of the horse's body. Death at the track can come as colic, a painful, terrifying abdominal affiliation, or laminitis, or an excruciating inflammation in the feet. Then there are respiratory infections and neurological disorders and diseases. In the autopsies and necropsies, we see horses that are only 4, 3, even 2 years old, dying with chronic conditions such as osteoarthritis and degenerative joint disease, clear evidence of the early incessant pounding of their underdeveloped bodies were forced to absorb. The practice of training relatively immature horses is not going to change, unfortunately. Waiting until thoroughbreds reach age 5 or 6 to begin training them would be too costly, and a horse is only seen as a commodity, a capitalism commodity in the racing industry, and they're only there to make capitalism profits, and if the horse doesn't make the profits, they're going to either be euthanized or sent to a slaughterhouse. Capitalism is misery. Capitalism equals pain and suffering for all. Animals, people, Mother Earth herself. Profits over lives is the daily basis under capitalism, the system. Second, there's the horse race itself. It's an unnatural act. The industry's claim that horses are born to run, they love to complete, is a lie, at least in the way the industry means it. The way horses run and play in an open field bears no actual resemblance to what they're made to do on the track. The horse race can only exist by force. Horses are disposable commodities under capitalism. Third, there's the economics, because race horses cost less than a decent used car, and because race purchasers are jacked up by taxpayer subsidies in the form of casino cash that also allows many tracks to pay first through last. This is a major incentive to run horses who have no business being on the track, and the horse fan has the incentive to push the horse past its own limits. Horse racing has always killed horses, but for more than 150 years, the poor horses died with few people noticing or even caring. As those in the horse racing industry continue to contribute to the explosion of the U.S. horse population, they give little thought to what will happen to the horses who are not winners on the racetrack. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, 92% of the horses sent to slaughter are healthy and perfectly suited to a normal life, living a normal life. Nothing's wrong with them. However, finding people with the money and land necessary to adopt these horses can prove difficult, leading them to be shipped abroad to be killed instead, via kill buyers to Mexico and other countries. This is a horrifying truth that you won't see on race day. At a feedlot in Alberta, Canada, up to 10,000 horses await their death. In the winter, when temperatures can drop to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, the snow-covered equines huddled together for warmth. On multiple occasions, only a handful of employees were around to check on the animals, and scavengers have picked over the neglected carcasses and dead bodies of the horses. And in 2019, a dead newborn foal was found frozen to the ground. About 20,000 U.S. horses, including former racehorses, work horses, show animals, discard pets, and even wild horses are sold to slaughterhouses in Canada and Mexico every year. According to a recent report by U.S. nonprofits Animal Wellness Action Center for Humane Economy and Animals Angels, the supply of U.S. horses to the foreign meat industry has sharply declined from more than 300,000 in the 1990s. But the auction to slaughter pipeline remains notorious for its animal suffering and misery. Investigations of auctions, auction houses, holding pens, transport, and slaughterhouses, etc., have found animals injured, diseased, and starving, according to the report compiled by the 3 animal welfare nonprofits. Witnesses saw downed animals being dragged from trailers, beaten by their handlers, and trampled by other horses. Only about 10% of slaughter horses are actual thoroughbreds, though. And the National Thoroughbred Racing Association has supported the movement, began to ban slaughter in the past. In 2002, at age 19, the 1986 Kentucky Derby winner Ferdinand, a thoroughbred, was sent to a slaughterhouse in Japan. The largest group are American quarter horses, which are commonly used as working animals. Once a horse is designed to kill horse, everything changes. Director of campaigns for both the Center for a Humane Economy and Animal Wellness Action has said any concern for its welfare goes out the window. One slaughterhouse employee confessed that workers would just drag the horses into the slaughterhouse with broken legs to slaughter them, according to the report. The market for horse meat is all but non-existent in North America, but the animals are more commonly eaten in Europe and Asia. Live horses are shipped to Japan for sashimi. Last year, Mexico sent $4 million worth of horse meat to Japan, China, and Russia, and in 2021, Canada exported $28.6 million worth of meat to Japan and Europe, including France, Belgium, Italy, Germany, Luxembourg, and Switzerland. Still, because of the increased awareness surrounding animal welfare and animal rights and food safety concerns, foreign demand for horse meat has plummeted in recent decades. That's partially because U.S. horse meat is often tainted with drugs. Because these animals aren't raised for meat, they are given drugs throughout their lives that are not fit for human consumption, such as pain medication. After the audit found drugs in horse meat imported from Mexico, the European Union banned imports from the country in 2014. In 2016, the EU requires all U.S. horses to be held for 6 months in Canadian feedlots, in theory to rid the animals of toxins before slaughter. The EU also bans imports of meat from horses that have ever received penbizamine, and a horse last owner must sign paperwork attesting the animal is drug-free. But this honor system is just not working. Meadows says a 2018 audit of Canadian horse meat bound for Europe found traces of the drug still in their system in the meat. A program titled The Dark Side of Horse Racing is based on footage supplied by the animal rights group Animal Aid. The group planted cameras in the arbitrator run by F. Dury and Sons, which is licensed to slaughter horses, and claims to have captured dozens of former racehorses being slaughtered. The majority were from Ireland. The investigation also suggests that many of the racehorses killed while the Animal Aid cameras filmed had been transported from Ireland, traveling more than 350 miles by road and sea, including some which were carrying life-altering and career-ending injuries. It further claims that at least 26 occasions, horses at the arbitrator were killed within sight of each other, another breach of regulations concerning slaughter. Dr. Hannah Donvan, a vet, tells the program that 350 miles potentially carrying a severe injury is not a humane process. This is unnecessary suffering. The bottom line is these horses, if they are to be euthanized, could and should be euthanized at home where they're at. Simple as that. In all, the investigation claimed to obtain figures showing at least 4,000 racehorses have been slaughtered in abattoirs in a 2-year period since the start of 2019. These included horses which had previous illustrations racing careers, winning thousands of pounds worth of money, and were associated with some of the biggest names in Irish racing. When it comes to horses, the racehorse industry and the thoroughbred industry is another group that uses auctions as a way to facilitate the overbreeding and discarding of horses they breed and dumping. Hundreds of thoroughbreds move through the auctions every year, and not all of these have been on the track. Horses that are not determined worthy of racing will still be indiscriminately sold at the auction, often before being registered. Lacking any official papers, the young thoroughbred does not have the same chance of finding a good home than a horse that has papers. Horses who have been lamed, either temporarily or permanently, are easily discarded to make way for a new crop of racing prospect horses. In an auction, you have a short time to evaluate the horse in the stall, being ridden, or turned out in the main area before bidding. The horse is in a new, uncertain environment, which can put even the most docile, friendly of horses on edge and cause them to act contrary to the nature. Horses who are lame are also getting drugs to mask their physical issues at these auctions and auction houses, where a person purchased a horse from an auction only to find out later that the horse needed thousands of dollars in medical care and veterinary care. There are no repercussions for individuals who will purposely try to dump horses who have issues onto unexpected buyers. Horses at auctions are sold for as little as $50. This means that the horse was most likely purchased by a kill buyer and will be shipped to Mexico or other countries for slaughter. Horse auctions attract and benefit people who neglect and mistreat horses. You go to an auction. You will see, however, the hundreds of thoroughbreds and other horses that the racing industry throws away every single year. You will see horses in various stages of neglect. You will see horses that have been brought and sold at various auctions without receiving adequate training or medical care. You will see horses who are permanently lame, old, brought back time and again when the owner realizes that it was not an issue it needed to be fixed. They bought a horse not knowing that it had all these issues and thought the issue was easy to fix when they found it wasn't easy to fix. You'll see neurological horses who have neurological problems who should have never been ridden but who are deemed as rideable. You will see horses who are older, who are in devastating pain and suffering, but are put through the auction so their owner can squeeze an extra $100 out of them instead of humanely euthanizing them. Wage theft in the horse racing industry, trouble at the track. Wage theft plagues the immigrants of New York's horse racing industry, and the horse barn surrounding New York's storied Belmar racetrack, where elite racehorses fight for first place, and spectators and rich capitalist pigs wage millions of dollars each season. The day starts at 5 a.m. for workers like Aguilar. He's tasked with caring for those thoroughbred horses, and he lives on site along with nearly 1,000 other workers in a complex built by and for the industry. It contains things like a food pantry, a child care center, and its own church. Before the sun rises, he walks to the barns to ready the 1,000-pound horses in his care for exercises. After the workouts, he'll lead the horses on cool-down walks and prepare ice baths for their muscles. On weekends and workdays, he can stretch longer if he helps with race days, which can feature more than a dozen high-stakes races with a multi-million-dollar purses. This morning's routine has occupied him 6 to 7 days per week, all year round. For the past 2 decades, he makes around only $15 per hour with no paid time off. But for years, Aguilar said the trainers who have employed him have failed to pay him all what he's owed, and a documented investigation found that he's far from alone. In an analysis of data obtained through a lawsuit with New York Department of Labor, found evidence that the state's relatively small horse racing industry faces an outsized crisis of wage theft and stolen wages. A documented analysis of this trove of wage theft data, dating from 2022 back to 2008, found more than 1,000 workers in horse racing were victims of wage theft, and a workforce with just a few thousand workers. These workers were owed a total of more than $4.4 million in back wages and penalties by more than 87 trainers, a significant portion of the 300 or so trainers that operate out of New York's tracks, and much of their earnings through share of race purchase when their horses perform well. Then, when workers complained, Aguilar said trainers were often unfazed, told them they would have no trouble replacing them, and in very rare cases, Aguilar said workers he knew who spoke out were threatened with deportation if they spoke up and became a whistleblower. These capitalist pigs go to these horse race tracks with the alcoholic Mint Julep drink in their hand, with their betting gambling money, and the racing industry has a drug addiction problem, and drugs run rampant, at the horse racing track. 30 horses died at Santa Anita Park during the first half of the 2018 to 2019 season. The California Horse Racing Board called for the park season to end early. The park refused, and a total of 39 horses died that year. Dr. Rick Arthur, equine medical director at the School of Veterinary Medicine at the University of California, has explained with how fewer horses racing nowadays, there is more pressure on the horses to race more frequently, so racehorses are given therapeutic drugs, no longer cocaine or heroin, but anti-inflammatories, muscle relaxants, painkillers, and until recently Landex, which is the counter-journal explains is used by veterinarians in horse racing to prevent respiratory bleeding in horses running at high speed, can lead to dehydration and is making agent for other drugs, and is genuinely prohibited as a race day medication in other countries. Since 1986, reports bloodhorse.com, more than 80% of Derby starters have raced on Langsix, and 95% of them have been on this drug since 1997. Trainers like Lansix in part because it makes horses lose fluid and race lighter, yet it is necessary to prevent hemorrhaging. NPR points into a scientific research paper conducted by the Jockey Club, which found that somewhat less than 10% of the racehorse population is actually adversely affected by exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhage, whereas approximately 95% of all racehorses are treated with Lasix. Drugging up a horse so it doesn't feel pain or get blood clots in its lungs when it runs really fast doesn't sit right with me, and the injuries and deaths of those 4 Churchill Down horses and those endured by Pardo and 8 Balls and others before them is heartbreaking.